something that we're aspiring for, and with everyone else as well, with the whole environment, ultimately. And so since time immemorial, these realizations and revelations have been written down in some of the oldest writings known, called the Vedas, which kind of gives us a very deep, beautiful, and perfect way of seeing the world, seeing where we find ourselves, how we will digest it, how we will look at it and see it. And they say that there's three things that we have to think about: is that we exist. And some of us are conscious, we're trying to be, to different levels. So the microphone also exists, but the microphone is not conscious of that. But I am. So there's existence. But then existence and consciousness is for something. Everything that is conscious is looking for something and is hungry for something. The heart is a tasting machine. It's hungry and it's looking for its food. And that, we've had sat means existent. Chit, these are words you might see if you read those kind of books, but sat means we exist. Chit means unconscious. And then the third one is the food of consciousness. What is consciousness looking for? What am I looking for? What are you looking for? What is the dog looking for? What is everything that is conscious is looking for something. It has some purpose. And that is described as ananda, which means, another one of those unpack it words, ecstasy, beauty, love, sweetness, charm, affection, the juice of life that we're all seeking everywhere. Now, we may seek it in different ways. You know, somebody may think that hunger for ananda is going to be satisfied by, you know, they've got a ton of money and they think if they buy enough Picassos, have them on their wall and enough Rolls Royces in the drive, then their heart will be satisfied. And somebody else is injecting heroin with the same idea. This is going to take the pain away. This is going to give me what my heart desires. And generally, we are thinking that if I can acquire and consume and control things, whether it's people or money or situations, whether from the outside, then my heart's hunger for anandam will be satisfied and I'll be very happy. And all the sadhus, all the saints from different traditions and different, come to wake us up. come to wake us up and try and turn us around from that. You know, that's a common thread to any sort of genuine spiritual instruction, is that that we can never be, we'll never be satisfied in that. By that control, consume, acquire mentality. You know, we calculate away, and we think that, yes, all I need to do is move to this place, marry that person, have that money, get that car, all these things, and then my heart's hunger will be satisfied. And the saints tell us, no, it'll never be like that. Yeah, this is an inner journey. This life is for inner cultivation. So the saint can be sitting in the same room as I'm sitting in, but they're seeing the world in a completely different way. My mind is uncontrolled and is thinking this, that, and the other. I need to do that. I want to go there. I'm going to get that. But the saint isn't seeing like that. The saint is seeing the divine flow in all things at all times, and is not chasing after phantasmagoria in this life which is gone so quickly. So we were singing these songs earlier to the Vaishnava, the heart transaction, you know, we have our senses. How are we even moving through this world? We find ourselves, we've been cast into the infinite, and here we are, you know, on this planet spinning around, whizzing through galaxies, whizzing through the Milky Way, turning around, and suddenly we're here. We're like, oh, here I am. And how I'm moving through it is I have these sensors that bring in information about it. I can see light, I can hear sound, I can collect information about my environment. But it's all limited. I can just see a little bit of the light. I can't see all light. I can see some part of the spectrum. And I can't hear what the dog can hear. You know, I think everything's peaceful and quiet, and the dog's running to the gate barking because he's heard something that I didn't hear. And I make mistakes. You know, these are all examples given in the Vedas. I make mistakes. And it's actually the example they often use, and which is actually it sometimes happens in India, is that you see a rope in the path as you're walking along and you think it's a snake. You jump back. Well, it's not a snake. You were wrong. It's a piece of rope. Or the other way around, which is worse, usually probably. You know, you go up to pick up a piece of rope and it turns out to be a snake. And we have a propensity to cheat. So many different things means that the information I'm taking in about the world isn't even, it's a fraction, and it's partial, because then my sense collecting activities goes to my brain, which is conditioned from time immemorial. But even in this life, we have been taught to think and see and conceive and process in this way or that way or another way. It's not what's going on. It's not reality, Hare Krishna. It's what my conditioned brain is telling me. And then with that imperfect data and my egotistical, slanted, conditioned being, then I start to do my calculations. Thanks. Yeah. So, then I start to do my calculating. Okay, I'm hungry. I want something. I want some satisfaction. I want some of this, more than that, actually. Anand means bliss, ecstasy, love, divine love. How am I going to get it? And then we start calculating. And then we wonder why it's not working out, or it's at best a temporary thing. And then even if we collect to our heart's content the biggest pile of money or the most beautiful people or whatever it may be, then you're going to die and you're going to have to leave it all behind you. And then what have you got? So so these things. So we've been relying on we're living in a conditioned reality, but there is an unconditioned, infinite reality that is doing its thing. Actually, we hear that it's dancing in ecstasy. That's the fundamental nature of reality. Dancing and full of sweetness and ecstasy. But my calculating, twisted, conditioned ego separates me from that. And how do we know about that? How can you know about that unconditioned, infinite person, ultimately? But that unconditioned, infinite, let's call it Great Spirit for now, nice and neutral. How do you know about that? Well, that living, organic whole is conscious too. Like we are conscious. Everything is, our Guru would say, everything is existing in consciousness. That's where it is. Otherwise, what's out there, you can't say much about it at all, really. I only know through my senses its attributes. This feels hard. That looks like that. What it is, we don't know. But we hear through the saints, through the revelation of the saints, something about that dynamic, beautiful, ecstatic reality. And how it distributes itself so beautifully and wonderfully, it's through the heart of the devotee, through the heart of the saint, through the heart of the holy people. That's how it comes to us. Not from messages from the mothership, or, I mean, that's also possible if can do, reality is by itself and for itself, can do what it likes. So if that could happen, but generally coming through the heart of the Vaishnava, of the saint, it's a heart relationship. It's a heart transaction. That's what Srila Gurudev used to say. Comes to, and can come to us, can be revealed to us, can be opened up to us through the mercy of the saints, through the affectionate care and concern and instruction of those who live in that plane of consciousness. Not a question of moving to India or going to a cave or anything like that. It's seeing differently, conceiving differently, seeing it in a different way. We hear about the 3 planes of existence. There's bhukti. It means, okay, how can I wring it out? How can I wring it for what it's worth? How can I manipulate my environment so I get what I want? What do I have to do? Okay, I have to do this, go there, get that qualification, do this, all down to my calculation. If I do all that, then I'll get what I want. That's where most of us are most of the time. We're trying to get what we want out of it. And then sometimes there's a reaction comes to that, because everything's got its consequence. Everything's got its reaction. That's the plane we live in. Even the scientists say that, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Something's going to come, whatever you do. And then we think, oh my God, I've had enough of this. I just want it to be over. I don't want to deal with it. It's called mukti. Just let me alone. I'm just going to go to a cave. I don't want to do anything, whatever it may be. I've had enough trying to do that. I'm not getting anywhere, and I'm turning it off. Mukti. But the saints tell us there's another plane of existence as well, which is bhakti, actually. It's devotion. It's like we are members of an organic whole, and each one of us has some particular, unique, wonderful part to play in that. But we always come back to this beautiful word, sharanagati. It means surrender. It means, Guru Maharaj would say, your calculation is cancelled by the infinite. Your little scrawlings on your notepad of 6 + 3, and then I'll get that, and this is the way. He says that's cancelled. You can throw that away. You don't know what is the nature of this beautiful dancing reality. You're attached to your prison, and you're hanging on to it, and you're scared to leap off that cliff into the uncertainty of the dynamic wave of reality, the beautiful. And he says, but we have to learn to dance in that wave. That's where we're meant to be. That's where every atom of our heart's hankering will be satisfied. That's where real joy and ecstasy and beauty lies. But it's a 180-degree shift from where I am at the moment, where I am the center of everything. That's how I calculate. I'm the center, and I just need to. I haven't been very successful yet, but maybe I'll get there next year or the year after, and my heart will be, singing in happiness forever, and all that. This aspiration, it's throughout everything. It's all our artwork and songs are about the love that will never die, and we'll be forever and ever. And they lived happily ever after. All these things. We want it because it's true. It's there. That state of being is our birthright. Actually, the Vedas say, what is it? Amrita Vishva. What is it? Anyway, you were born in nectar, Amrit. You were born to taste that. Wake up. Look for it. Look for your fortune. The syllable Omkara. You see it everywhere, the Om sign. And people have written books and treatises that it means this and it means that. And yada. And my guru's guru, he said, the Om is a very simple explanation. What is it? It means a big yes. That's what Omkara means. It's a big yes. It means what you're looking for, the love that will never die, that sweetness and beauty and charm, that ecstasy that doesn't finish, and then back down to... Not like that. The divine wave of sweetness is the birthright of everyone. We were born for that. So don't give up on that. Keep looking for that. Make that your goal and purpose in life. And how does it come to us? Who are the agents of reality? They're called Vaishnavas, the sadhus, the carriers of that heart substance, who live that and exude that, and are rare, no doubt. But just something, because something is rare doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So we've been very fortunate that we've had some connection with some real holy person, people who embody that and live like that and see like that, see that divine wave everywhere, not separated from that. So that's a nutshell. That's why we're here. Anybody got any question or something? Anything?
Just several things.
Yes.
The one thing is that you mentioned saints, which is associated with a Christian.
Right. Mm.
Why?
Well, yes, I mean, the saints can come in all guises, It's like, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I appear in every species, never mind, just in, there's some guidance. As a function of the absolute, is to bring consciousness towards itself. Saint, that's just an anglicized. We would say sadhu in India. We'd use the word sadhu, but essentially it means the same thing. And it's very important because it's not a sectarian thing. It's a very important point, actually. Srila Sridhar Maharaj used to say the different. There's many different religious and philosophical conceptions, ways of seeing the world, right? So you could say, yeah, but they're all wrong and we're right. Well, that's the world that we live in, where they're wrong, we're right. But he doesn't describe like that. The Vedas don't describe like that. He would use an analogy like the different philosophical religious outlooks or conceptions are like planets. What do you call it? Orbiting the sun. So they're all looking for truth. They're all looking for some meaning. But they're not all the same. Like some are very close and share some of those qualities. Like, some have a deeper understanding, some less understanding. Many different styles, different types. I've got 2 glasses of water now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sectarian, non-sectarian.
Yes, sectarian. So not a sectarian thing. And then, he developed that idea. And he'd say, well then, okay, so there's all these different ones. So how do you judge them? What's the criteria for that? And then he would use an analogy of money. Like if you're in the UK, then money means pounds. It's synonymous. You've got some money, it means do you have any pounds? But we know that there's more to the world of currency than there is just pounds. There's also rupees and euros and yen and all these things. So there's all these currencies. But they're not all one for one either. So you can't go down with your 100 rupees and change it for 100 euros. That would be great, but they don't do it. They won't let you do it. You only get £1, not £100 for your 100 euros, for your 100 rupees. So you have to have some kind of, standard. How are we going to judge this? And nowadays, who knows what it is? But it used to be gold. How much gold can you buy with that? That's the standard of how much that currency is worth. So similarly, in these other conceptions, there has to be some standard. And the word that he uses, another one of those densely packed Sanskrit words, is a word called rasa, which, for the sake of here, it means loving intimacy. To what degree of loving intimacy with the whole does that conception bring you? Does it bring you to like, we're right and they're wrong, let's fight about it? Well, that's not an intimate thing. That's something else entirely. That's not seeing the divine wave in everything at all times, in all places. So yeah, we have our own language, but sometimes, I mean, I do it as well. I forget that people, like I was when I first came, and that people are saying this, that, and the other, and I'm just like, I have no idea what they're talking about. All the Sanskrit words, and this words, and that words, and the other words, I have no idea. But over the years, I've, learnt them. So now I sometimes fall into jargon. We fall into jargon, and we say, well, Pakistan, so to talk about, and the person's just like, because the names are very long, apart from anything else. The names are very long. So yeah, I was just sort of using an English word, but...
It's just that the English word is more than an English word. It represents something.
Yes, it's true. Everything has got its own representation.
Something advanced from another.
Yes. So you can say, well, I like sadhu is a great word, but it means holy person, you could say, like that. And we know that, the holy person in the Amazon jungle may look and behave very different, but differently from the saintly person in the Himalaya or somewhere else, But those who are far down that path of surrender, ultimately, away from ego and selfishness to service of the whole. That's the criteria on that, really. And who to judge that? Well, that's not for me to judge. But we hear that, we can see that these great souls pop up all over the place, not necessarily just in this tradition or that tradition.
How does one recognize it as an authentic?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
We hear about these great souls, and how would I recognize a great soul?
Right.
I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Right.
Yeah, that's one thing. The other thing is, how would you, a young person growing up in this reality, this Western world reality, with its particular consciousness, how would a young person reconcile what you're saying with what they're experiencing, with their experience of having to live in this world, this Western world?
Right.
How do you...
Right. So then, these are very good questions. Exactly. How do we know? How do we, So...
And live authentically, if you like. To me, it's about authentic.
Yes, yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but living in this world is having these experiences that are acquiring money and having a job. These are realities.
Right.
That
Yes,
a lot of young people have to cope with.
Yes.
We all have to cope with. You're speaking as someone, I assume, who's spent many years, perhaps...
Oh, many years working and in family life and all those things.
But also
right.
moving,
yes.
You now have a different perspective on
right,
it.
Right.
But not everyone is going to develop that perspective. But they have to live in a world in which they have to reconcile inconsistencies, contrasts, contradictions.
Right. Yes.
And that's far more difficult. Rather than what you're advocating is moving towards this divine flow or whatever it is. I don't think I personally will ever. Or do I aspire to that?
Right.
To be honest,
Right.
not. I don't aspire to.
Right.
Simply because I have do a number of things that give me a certain satisfaction.
Right.
so I don't feel
Right.
the need to.
Yes, yes.
But I'm more interested in
Right.
how people reconcile, how they can live authentically an authentic existence
Right.
in a world which represents such
Right.
huge contradictions and contrasts.
Right.
On the one hand, you represent something, you
Uh-huh.
represent this particular spiritual
Right.
path, if you like.
Uh-huh.
But I do see divine people, when
Yeah.
I sense people who have, I don't even know what wisdom means anymore, or,
Right.
living in such a different world, but who seem to know where they're heading, if you like, a little bit, or
Uh-huh.
can guide other people.
Right.
Whether they're divine beings, I don't know.
Right.
But
Uh-huh.
it's,
Yeah, I probably didn't express that well in the sense that, it's about consciousness always. It's not about how the external things are arranged. So it's not that, you have to live on dal and rice in a cave in India, and you can't have a job and live in Hounslow and go to work every day. That's not at all the defining factor. The defining factor is as we move through our life and day, is it selfishness ultimately? It all comes down to ego and selfishness.
well, that's another thing. Sorry,
Right.
you're raising all sorts of things.
Right.
Ego to me is a positive thing.
Right.
Because the way we're all misusing the word ego, the term ego, because ego is actually, it was a Freudian term, it is still a Freudian term, and he used the id, the ego,
Right,
the
right.
super ego.
Yeah.
And in fact, the ego was that conscious
Right.
element of ourselves that was actually mediating. The role of the ego is to mediate. And we've used it, we've
Yes.
abused it.
Right, I should stick with Sanskrit really. Yeah, it's true.
For our own purposes.
Right.
And in fact, the ego is a very healthy,
Right.
we need the ego to be able to mediate
Right.
between the id and the super id,
Right.
the basic instincts of the id and the conscious decisions, the higher, if you like,
Right.
decisions of the super ego.
Okay.
So the ego itself is a very healthy,
Okay.
and when I hear people say,
Yes, well, that's my fault for, it's often translated as that, but it's not really that, because, a long time before Freud came around, this Sanskrit was talking about ahankara. Ahankara means, it actually means false ego. Because we all have an authentic,
if you didn't have that ability to mediate between all those, you could be prone to all sorts of things. You need a healthy ego. And
Right.
It's just the way that it's appropriated. It's just worrying me all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry, we don't want to worry. We don't want to be worrying you.
No. I have lots of things I worry about.
But no, that's a good point, because we do use these things that are translated, which aren't always, like I was saying about these other words. They have a meaning, but that meaning is not so easily defined that you can just borrow a word from Freud or anybody else which has all its own connotations and say it means that, because it doesn't really. Having said that, we have to try and use something, in English language or whatever language it is to try and get across these ideas. And ahankara ultimately is egotistical in the sense that I am the center of everything. Everything is there to serve me. I just have to figure out how to play it properly, and that's how I will go. And it doesn't matter, I can be doing that in a cave in India, I can be doing that on the stock exchange. And equally, I can realize that I'm not the center of everything, that there is a center of this organic whole that is beautiful and sweet, and that I am for that. I am for him. I am for them, actually, male and female. But I am for that. And I'm looking at how will I offer myself to that as an offering? How will I give myself? I am a unit, so we hear, of giving. That is my actual function, is to give. And to give to the whole, not just a part of the whole here and there, to the center, like water in the roots of the tree. So that's the difference. It's not a question of what our material situation is. And that's very important, because most people doing bhakti yoga have got jobs, families, cars, everything. I mean, that's just the world we live in. That's, you know, some live on farms, some live in flats, some live in the city, some lives in the village. So that's really not the... Because it's our internal, it's the inner journey that we're concerned with, and it doesn't matter where I go, there I am, you know, with all my own conditioning and prejudice, acquired prejudice, sometimes Guru Maharaj would term it, our acquired prejudice. I've been taught through many different layers to see things in a way that aren't really how they are. They're just been how I've been taught to interpret that, the environment. And the saints say amazing things. They say the environment is your friend. You know, my prejudice is to blame it, and well, it's because of this and it's because of that. And the saints say that every wave is favorable. Every wave is coming from that center, and you can conceive of what that center is in many ways. I am so attracted and love so much that conception that what is everything is springing from has the nature of beauty and sweetness and love. Yes, I want to go in that direction. That's the direction I want to go in. Somebody else can say it was a rock that exploded, and that's fine. You know, you sort of pays your money and you takes your choice where this is, what the most important things are. And we find they're all in consciousness. They're not outside. You can't take the painting of the Picasso to the beautometer in the university and have them say, yeah, this is this much beautiful. It doesn't exist there. It exists in us, that appreciation of beauty and humor. What to speak of love. It's something that's inside us. And the saints, the sadhus, push us to that. You've got to go into the inner journey and less attention to whether you're in the factory or the field or the wherever it may be. Give less attention to that. It's how you are seeing, conceiving, and in how you want to proceed, what you think is important. So, Hare Krishna.
Very nice.
Every wave is favorable. And seeing like that, not just a sound bite. And how we can, you know, you were saying, how do we know? Well, that's a very good question, actually. But then we understand and we feel it, that we're not in a dead thing. It's actually all alive. And the source of everything is personality and full of sweetness. So we can, with folded palms, give some appeal to that. And we're told that again and again. Don't fear. Come this way. I will come to you. I will help you. The Great Spirit can help us. You know, known by many names. Krishna means all attractive. What's pulling, all attractive. Has life, can reveal. Not that by our experimentation we can acquire. So we can, you know, we can read, we can do we can study. But a lot of it is also, you know, Gurudev used to say, sincerity is invincible. That's a very sweet expression. Sincerity is invincible. You know, if we want to grow and go in that line of dedication, then however long it may take, that will carry us, that desire.
I get what you're saying about a life of, you know, a giving, but I struggle sometimes. How do you know that a life of giving is beneficial? Okay, I can see that people are benefiting. I can see that someone is, perhaps if I give to them, I give my time, energy, I can see that others will be benefiting. But this, how do we actually come to how do we know that a life of giving is beneficial? That's what I want to say. Apart from seeing, okay, a little bit here, I can see that it's making someone happy. I can see that, you know, that there are benefits to that person. But to give completely over to this idea of giving, I need some. I can't. I'm not getting it.
Well, I'm.
Giving in the right direction. Then, it's not just giving willy-nilly. It's like giving to the.
Yes, it's giving to serving the centre, but I understand what you're saying too. Yes. Well, we have to, you know, if we have to pray some, we have to pray. That's, you know, for some desire to do that, and then, you know, try basically. The Vedas say it's like eating food. You don't need somebody else to tell you when you're hungry and you feeling full. You can feel it. So that's this whole process. It's a process. It's not a mental. It's not a mental jugglery of like. It's not like that. It's like, well, we have, you know, our practices, process, external, internal, to go to this very wonderful aspiration. It's not so easy, you know. It's nobody. We're not saying that this is like a overnight thing where we're going to turn our way from our selfishness.
But there's a delicate balance between you giving, but at the same time, this is a whole human being in front of you, or a whole person who also needs to do, who needs to provide for themselves. Or so you may be giving and feeling great about it, but that may not be what that human being requires, or those human beings require, in order for them to fulfill themselves, their own potential. They actually need to withdraw and not give.
Yeah, well, we're not forcing anybody
No,
to
saying
take anything.
the philosophy of this constant giving is that really beneficial for other people, for the people that you're giving to? I mean,
well, Krishna, the unconditioned reality, says, yeah, give everything to me.
Give everything, but
Yeah.
Do you think of charity, like giving people in charity, and then is that beneficial in the long run and that sort of thing? Or?
That, and in all aspects, you're looking at charity, you're looking at
Giving your life.
all you're doing all I feel I'm doing is, I would be satisfied myself and say, okay, I'm doing what I think I need to do, and that in itself is selfish. That's,
Right.
I strive for a balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that we do in that sense, in that material sense, I mean, different types of charity are exactly what you've said, are described in the Vedas, like in the different modes, like, you know, if you give someone some money and they just use it to inject themselves with heroin and then die from that, you know, do you have any responsibility for that because you gave them the money? Well, yeah, you do. You can't, so there's different ways of doing everything, no doubt. But, and it's an important point,
This unconditional giving, I'm not putting conditions on it, but I do understand the repercussions of that giving. I do understand the consequences of that.
right.
And so you weigh it up. You cannot just. I cannot see. For me, I cannot see a life of just constantly giving, because I don't know where it will lead. I can't see it leading to.
But it's mostly, it's giving. I mean, it can be those things, but it's giving of the heart and like in my experience of our guru. It wasn't those kind of things. He was giving himself. That's what he was giving. He wasn't keeping it. He was giving it from the time his door opened in the morning early till late at night, old, in ill health. And so many people would come looking for something, looking for nourishment, looking for instruction, looking for whatever. And he would so affectionately and sweetly deal with them and try to give them encouragement, whatever they were doing, try to give them hope, try to give them truth, try to give them something wonderful. That kind of giving. And then, nobody's being forced to come. But when they came, he would, with affection. It was the giving of affection and heart. That's what it is. That's what the selfishness is. No, I need time for me now. They don't have like that. They're in that flow. That's what they do, the Vaishnavas. They give of themselves and of their heart, without discrimination to somebody who's like qualified in some way and somebody who's not, rich or poor. That's absolutely not in the picture at all. To try and give some uplifting, something wondrous and divine, I would say, something divine, something ineffable to everyone who came. And people felt it from him. They came away thinking, being given something very wonderful. That kind of giving. And it's a very rare and wonderful thing that can only... all these things ultimately come to aspiration. I don't have any of these good qualities. It's like... But, in this life, who am I looking up to? And who do I want as my mentor and my teacher? And who do I want to be like? Who do I want to have some of those qualities? I wish I had those qualities. I wish I wasn't so selfish with my time or with this or with that. I want to be like that. So that's what we call the Vaishnava.
Is that important to have a role model to look up to, someone to aspire to, a mentor? I don't know. Is that?
I think
that's in religion, like Jesus, he was being me.
Right.
And I'm a female. I don't relate to Jesus that well.
Uh-huh.
Actually, you're a bloke.
Right.
There's all these things keep popping up as I get older.
Right.
And why is it so important to have a mentor all the time?
I just know that I where I am and how I am, I want to be more than this. Definitely, I want to be better than I am.
I'm fairly eclectic. I will go here after. Okay, I get this idea. I get that idea. I don't think that everything has to come from one religion, or one faith, or one person, or one philosophy.
Right.
I think the world is full of amazing philosophies and ideas, and I will look across the diversity of what's available. But why do we need to follow one person? That sounds to me.
Well, that's what it all ultimately comes back to, the beginning, that it's a heart transaction. You can't make someone be in love. It's about that. It's about the heart, the play of the heart. And when we're touched by somebody that invokes that, that's what love is all about. It's about giving of oneself. And so it is a love affair. It is. It's all a love affair at the end of the day. It's about that. And that you can't, fake that or impose that on anyone. And it's definitely not sectarian. We know that the divine nature has names of many, unlimited names. So it's not in the name. You can call that. You can call Krishna anything you like in that respect. The Great Spirit, this, that, or the other, whatever you want. It's not that, but we as individuals have the same kind of, anatas. I'm not going to use English words. Unwanted things in the heart from our conditioning.
And we hear also, actually, we need a teacher with everything what we are wanting to learn. And
Yes,
isn't it?
An idea of a teacher or we call them facilitators or guides, or the idea of a teacher imparting something to you. I have the knowledge. I'm going to give this knowledge to you. I mean, we facilitate so that people can actually learn from themselves, from all sorts of, help them to explore their own.
But for example,
experiences.
yeah. For example, there is this Goswami Maharaj always gives that example. If you are in an airplane and you ask about the pilot. Oh yeah, the pilot is fine. He just understand how to do it, and he can fly. But you want to that maybe you don't want to go on that plane because you want somebody who has been taught properly a certain thing. So more even with spiritual knowledge, which is so fine and so subtle, has to do with the soul. So that is even more because we are so conditioned and we have so many, what Prabhu explained so nicely, so many identification. This is me, this all. If we can understand at a certain point, it's the ego who gets in the way, who says, no, I don't. It's actually when you're ready to acknowledge that. When you, for example, if you see something like Bhagavad Gita for the first time, how Krishna, how the Lord, the loving Lord, explains where he is in everything and how to come to him, then it blows your mind. You think, wow, that's so beautiful, that's so fine. There's another dimension to it than with other books where you get some data and it's something that you get out of an illusion. Illusion means ego or material world. We are here in that illusion. And so the knowledge from the scriptures gets you out of that illusion instead of putting some data into you and then you learn it or something. It's like it sets you free because for so many lifetimes we are looking for happiness, for real happiness, that's not something outside of us, another person or things or circumstances or stuff. It is inside. That is the whole shift. And that is when you're ready for it, that you think, okay, I see how I am. You look at yourself. What you're thinking, is it negative? What you want, is it negative? What you do, is it negative? Ultimately, we are able to be completely positive and fine with all the waves that are happening. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could get so far?
I actually don't think that the material world gets a bad press, a very bad press. I mean, when you see volcanoes explode and they produce beautiful gemstones.
Beautiful, yeah.
And as a woman, I've given birth. It's a physical experience. It's a material experience. I come from the physical world. I mean, I'm sorry, but the material world to me always gets a very bad press.
No,
I think we concentrate.
Not bad press, but it's
I
like
think the two work in tandem, and I cannot create a hierarchy. I'm struggling with this. I cannot see that the spiritual world is hierarchical, that somehow it has to be at the top. When in fact, I think the physical world, we live in the physical world, we engage with farming, with produce and stuff. The physical world is, the spirit is inherent in the physical world. And I don't think we should be separating them. That's the problem.
Everything is spiritual, isn't it? Even the material world is spiritual.
That's what I'm saying, yes. And therefore, this constant breaking up of creating a hierarchy where you're sort of pushing the spiritual world as the top thing to aspire to. No, sorry, it's present in the physical world. It should not be...
Yes, well, everything existing in consciousness first and foremost, everything. So it's how you're seeing it and how you're conceiving of it and moving of it, whether it's spiritual or material. It's not like a thing out there. So how am I seeing? If I'm seeing everything as a divine wave, that's what it is. If I'm seeing as, oh, this is material, that's everything's coming from within us. Otherwise, it's dark and unknowable. It's consciousness that's bringing it alive.
But it's the constant reference to material or something negative. It's not.
No, it is not my experience I will share. When I was a kid in India, when I was small, my grandmother, she was very spiritual.
Yes.
But my mother and father were both doctors. They studied and became doctors. So I could see the distinguishment. So my grandmother was very calm, very involved in the God's this thing. But my, when you say material world, so what my mother will say will, you have to study hard because you have to become something. You have to become something. Now for me, that becoming, I did not know. But they will always say, you have to become an engineer. I became an engineer. But it was like from childhood. They never said, so first, okay, become an engineer. Then we went on, okay, studying hard, became an engineer. I spent like 25 years becoming an engineer. When I became an engineer, then another comparison came in. So because my parents were doctors' children were usually well educated and they went out. So then my parents started saying, look at their son, they have gone to America.
There's always another.
Yeah, there's another benchmark. You have another level, you have to cross another level. So then they said, okay, they have gone to America. There's nothing in India. You have to go to abroad. Right. Because this is this social pressure that I don't blame my parents, because we are living in a medical campus. Everybody's child is excelling in school. Right. So they want their child to excel in school because otherwise they are like getting left behind. So this concept, what you call materialism, it's not a thing actually. But what I think is, that time like my parents, they said, okay, go to America, you have to become something. So I finally ended up in UK. Okay, better than America because it's easy for going to India 10 hours. If in America it's 24 hours. Right? So then I ended up over there. But if you see now, and then, okay, my grandmother was there. In my honest opinion, I always revered my grandmother to be so nice. So what I am today is because of my mother and father. Because they pushed me so much, I came here. But when I look back, I find that my grandmother, she will constantly, in the morning, she will get up, she will open, she used to follow Bhagwan Ram. She will open Ramayana, she will keep studying Ramayana for 2 hours. She was very calm, never associated with things. She always did the right thing. So when in a joint family, my mother, my cousins got married, my grandmother ensured she gave as much as possible to them and very less to my mother. Because she always wanted to do for the smallest one first. And always want to make sure that smallest one is never left out. So when I ended up here, now in COVID, one of my parents were okay, but one of my very close relatives got COVID. And this COVID showed the helplessness that their children are now abroad. They could not come from Australia. And they died. And they had to ask some other person, okay, can you do cremation and all. It happened. It happened and worked out. But it showed to us that what my parents were also very fearful. And because the flights are blocked, we are not traveling. And my parents, they are now 70. Being a doctor as well, but COVID is not coming by looking at a doctor. It's just coming through. So one day my mother was crying. She said like, I'm very scared. Now she has been doctor, a senior gynecologist, doing tens of operations every day. But then when she sees the reality that death can happen any day and the children are not there, that is what is causing her anxiety. But how did I end up here? I ended up here because it was them who pushed me to be here. Otherwise, I could have been living with my parents more calm, more down to earth. Because right now, I make good money here, but then there is no ending. When I go here and I look at a new role and I say, okay, I am getting paid 300, I want now 400. So this benchmark that has been tuned into my mind was done because of them. And why I come to the temple is, it's not that it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad or good, but what I'm doing is, I'm 90% into that. And only 10% into spiritual world. So what you are saying is essentially right, both have to go hand in hand. And when I come to the people like Prabhu and otherwise, I know they are not going to tell me do not work. They just want me to be a bit more spiritual. That means less focused on materialistic things, more focused on spiritualism. That Okay, so from 90% I become 85, 80, 70, 60, 50, 50 kind of thing. That's all. I agree with your point that materialism and spirituality, they always go hand in hand. We have to feed ourselves. So you have to go and do work somewhere. You have to earn money. You have to focus on the family, make them study.
It's just reconciling these things all the time.
Yes, but it's just that how much fraction is there, how much involvement is there. I have seen like India was such a spiritual country, it's considered to be such a spiritual country, but if you go there now, people are, it's a cutthroat competition to make money. A cutthroat competition, you will be amazed if you go there to look spirituality.
I can imagine,
Yeah, if you go there to look, thinking of India, so anybody who doesn't know about India and he says, no, India was a spiritual land. Gautam Buddha was born in India, Bhagwan Ram was born in India, Krishna was born in India, and all these religions, they never dominated any world by force. They just, people adopted them naturally. There was no like invasion of Islamic invasion, that conversion. No, it was no, there was never a concept, but people adopted it by will, kind of thing. If you go there now looking for spirituality, it's a changed world. It has become more Western than Western. Yeah. It's like right from the time you land at the airport, right from the time you land at the, but it is because I don't blame the people. This is what they have been taught, because the parents taught them how big you will become, and the benchmark was totally different. There was no spirituality. It was how much money you are going to make, and the comparison with the others. He is going to America, so you have to make it go to America. It's there. So that's, I think that is what is the materialism and spirituality, they work together, but that is what has changed. It's 99% materialism, 1% spirituality, and I think 1% spirituality is conscience. That when you are going to do wrong thing, are you conscious, does your conscience stop you from doing the wrong thing? It's like somebody landed in India, and just because you say they are white skin, they don't know how much fare is from here to there. You say, okay, it's 1,000 pounds, it's 1,000 rupees, which is 10 pounds, but it may be actually 2 pounds. So this cheating concept is also because of lack of spirituality or lack of conscience. That inner soul is not saying that, okay, you have to be honest, you have to be truthful. In the name of Lord, you have to be correct and be more helpful to people. Rather, they see a person as an opportunity to make money, to get the things out. That is, I think, what is lacking at the moment in India. And so when I come here, actually, Prabhu, yourself and everybody, that is what I intend to learn, that be a bit more conscious, more correct, be less wrong.
Yes, that sounds like a good start for me too, yes. Yes. Trying to go in that direction. Wherever I find myself, in whatever situation, those kind of qualities that have come down, echoed down the centuries while everything else has changed. But those, dealing with consciousness, that is the matter in hand. It's not about the external play of things. It's about how I am seeing it. And what is my role in it? Is it just to satisfy my senses and get what I want at whatever cost? Or is there some other higher principle? Is there a principle of sacrifice and giving of myself? And then that leads us to the question, where should that be? Where is the highest point? Where is the central point to which I can offer myself and hope to be transformed? That's the promise that's given. That these things that have been acquired, the prejudice that has been acquired, and the conditioning that's been acquired, can be dissolved and can be crossed over, so we see things without that conditioned, selfish glasses. He said, I have put on the what does Guru Dhamma say? I've put on the spectacles of self-interest and acquired prejudice that I think things are like this, because that's how I've been taught to think them. But there is another reality that's not infected by that. And what is its nature, and who do I learn about it from? Is there anybody who can tell me about that? Well, we would say, yes, there is. And they are called Vaishnavas. They are the agents of that reality who've come through their hearts. So always we come to consciousness. That's the be all and end all, really, of how Krishna consciousness, that's what it's called, isn't it? Krishna consciousness, consciousness of that, of what Guru Maharaj called reality, the beautiful. That has the nature of that thing that we're all looking for, that all harmonious, every opposite held inconceivably in the hands of the Absolute, with no anarchy. There's no anarchy in that. Guru Maharaj saying whether the blade of grass goes to the left or to the right is full of infinite meaning in that wave. And that's the wave we're to learn to dance in, to come out of our exploitation consciousness, that I am the center. So it's aspiration. This is our aspiration. This is, we won't put that on the altar of our hearts, and we can call it any religion you like or any of them things. That doesn't matter. But that divine, we're dealing with reality, that divine aspiration is really what we're talking about. Some hankering to go in that direction. However long it takes, whatever I have to go through to have some wonderful, beautiful aspiration like that, coming from the heart of someone we love very much, and bowing down at their lotus feet, actually, as carriers of that divine conception, the Vaishnava, the Sadhu. Hare Krishna.
You were saying also about this giving, and I can understand, to give money and charity here and there. We know there's a lot of dishonesty in that sense, right? So, but what we can do, that is also Krishna consciousness, gives a lot of information about all directions of life, psychology, spirituality, material life, political logic, so many things. So if we can see actually that life is not so easy for nobody. So if we could change ourselves, then we would do it, but we cannot in many ways. The same is with other people that we meet. So they maybe have a difficult background or whatever, they feel not so strong, or they feel in many ways confused, frustrated, depressed. So if deeper in ourselves we think like, maybe I can give a smile just to a person that I pass by. I remember here, when we just started here, early in the morning or midday, I walked to my house, and first people thought, what is she wearing? These sheets or something? And what does she put on her face? Like, in this area was a bit strange. And then I just passed by, same people all the time. I started to smile, then they started to smile, and now they're like friends. And that's just by giving a smile. If you give a smile to somebody that you meet, or you feel that in your soul, you feel that in your heart, like there is some connection that you think, wow, that this is sort of heart-to-heart connection or soul-to-soul. It gives you some niceness, some energy. And so is it also with, if we get a broader conception about the suffering in the world, and how we can just give some nice words, or some attention, or make a cup of tea, then we feel deep inside of us, there is some interaction, and not that we do it for that, but there is something that is actually our nature. Our nature is to be kind and nice, it's humankind that is a word. So, and by doing that, we get enforcement of, yeah, this is the way to go, this is who you are actually. Instead of, oh, I'm now angry because this didn't go through and this is not how I intended it. These are all like constructs outside ourselves, identifications actually with things outside what we think is ours, but it's not ours. It is like in a flow. We at a certain point we die. So to be grateful for, actually we have a body, we have a breath, we, to become in our philosophy, and I've seen that also in the world. We can ask ourselves, what is the nicest quality in a human being? What do you think? What is for you the nicest quality in a human being?
The nicest quality in a human being? It's a difficult one. I think to be genuinely yourself is not a quality, that's just a state of being. But quality, the nicest quality?
Good question.
Yeah.
It is a good question.
No, right now I think it would be, and I think these things change at different times. So I'm saying right now, a sense of joy would be nice, a sort of someone expressing a joyfulness.
It's not really quality.
Like a sort of
I
joyful
don't
person.
Mean happiness, I don't mean happiness. I don't
Yeah.
mean happiness.
No, somebody who's very positive or something.
No, just someone who genuinely, I feel, if I see someone who I think genuinely expresses an authentic sense of joy, there's no explanation or no excuse, it makes me very joyful, it makes me very...
Yeah.
It's exact, means it's the expression of being able to make someone happy
Yeah.
with something, with whatever. That feeling when you are in a position to do something, make somebody more happy or joyful.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the most content feeling, that you are able to do something.
What I have seen, and what Keshavananda Prabhu also referred to, and we have seen that in our spiritual masters, and there's a lot of bogus that is spoiling the thing, but not to throw the baby away with the bathwater. There is some, and we have seen that. That means utmost humility. Utmost humility means there's no ego in the way from that we have to think something that person is not, but or want some power or want some domination over, over the environment. So the quality of humility I have found, because when a person is really humble, then that person is a giving person. He wants to give. He sees we are all one family actually in the world, and there's a lot of suffering, and I want, because that person thinks I have that connection with the loving Lord, and he's seeing everything what we are doing. I want to do something good, even though maybe my ego or my mind or my intellect said, no, I have to go now and I have to do other things and I'm very busy. No, that you think in the moment there is a need. Somebody needs something, my attention, or and that we have seen in the teachers, that they were there for us to give everything what they have, and they don't need anything, because it's coming that dhara, that current from the spiritual world, what we believe, is coming through them to give them strength, and they just giving. They want to help. They want to help that we get out of this suffering by knowledge and by realizing our high position as a human being. It's like sometimes we are so downtrodden to all the problems and the news, and then we we forget how actually we have a very high position as a human form in the world. What you say so nicely, it is created by the Lord, even though, like for us, not to suffer, but to see there is another way in which you can proceed. And this world is already so magical. It's already so phenomenal and so beautiful, and people can be so nice and so kind. And so to in that humility, we have no pedestal to fall from, so to say. So in that humility, we can say, I'm here to serve, my Lord. I'm here to do something good. I'm here to be kind, to be beautiful, to give my energy for something. And that is, we have seen, we got inspired for Keshavananda, 30 years, like 40 years, for so long, leading a very giving life without expecting anything, but so full. They have an expression, simple living, high thinking. So that consciousness, what Keshavananda is emphasizing all the time, that is everything. That consciousness, and that is with the soul. Like, I'm here to do, I want to interact with people, and I want to give some niceness. I want to give some help, because I see maybe somebody is a bit out of the group, or it needs some help in the kitchen, or needs cleaning the pots. These are not normal things that living in the world, maybe you think, okay, that's not, you learn that. You learn that from the spiritual masters, that they emphasize you're here to do good, and that will make you really happy.
The idea, the feeling that I'm getting is, the suggestion is that, okay, so if you're going to be, this humility is a quality that's almost required, so that you can become an agent.
Yeah.
And through becoming an agent, you will then do the good and giving. And
Yeah.
But yeah, this humility. Okay, it's in the Western world, like when I first came with my family, they thought like they're so unattractive, because like they thought humility is like humiliated, or like making yourself so small or something. But by becoming humble, you can see so many things. You can see the what Prabhu said, the sweet waves all around you, and you're there to assist, or to serve, or to appreciate, and that you feel inside you. And then you don't need so much from the external, if it's good or not good. You learn how to, because without humility you cannot deal with negativity. It's very difficult, because you get angry, you get envious, you get greedy, you get all these things, and these are things that we live with that. And again, to come back to our masters, they taught us a way out, how to become humble, how to become tolerant, how to give honor to others without expecting anything for yourself. Then you can keep going in a world that is, not so easy for nobody to live in. And then you said it so nice. Not that I am like that, because I'm far from it, but I aspire to become an agent of the Lord. I really aspire that. And I see in Keshavananda and others, they are like that. And they are so joyful,
because they found it. They're not joyful because, I don't know, they have a good house and a nice car and a beautiful wife or children who are so lovely. It's not, yeah. It is always changing, and that is a thing with material thing instead of spiritual thing. Spiritual energy or spiritual connection always gets more and more. And with material things, as we all know, they're there, then time transforms them, and ultimately they turn into the opposite. That is the nature of material things. And we, we want to go for eternality. People say, we love, the scientists, they love immortality. But immortality is never with a lot of material, finite stuff. It is with the soul. It is the soul and the connection with the Supreme Soul, which is the Lord.
Shy.
You speak a lot about humility and humbleness. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well,
in context.
Guru Maharaj is used describes that differently in different places, but one that really I like a lot, and he says, humility means to be open to infinite possibilities.
Right.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Because my calculation has been taken out of that equation. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, that's, all that constellation of upadi, of bullshit, basically, that's been put into you from time immemorial.
Yeah.
Even if we can't buy into that the soul is eternal, the conscious world goes on. Even in this lifetime, we've been taught to think in a certain way and be a certain way, and everybody's different. They had their own parents, they had their own trauma, they had whatever it is that has created my outlook on the world and how I think it can be and what can be. And Krishna, time and time again, says, give it up. Don't fear. Do not fear. Sarvadhamam parityagya mamekam sharanam vraja. You don't have to worry, because I'm alive. In fact, I am reality, the beautiful. And if you have any inclination to come towards this dynamic, living, wonderful person, then I will give all assistance. Christ said, what are you worried about? The birds are eating their food, and the elephant's got his food as well. Don't worry about that. This is a substantial thing to be doing, to this cultivation of this new way of seeing, a new way of being. So I like that, really. It's not and Mahaprabhu.
I don't even know what humbleness means in the English language, let alone in Sanskrit.
I'd have to look at, actually that's a good point, we'd have to look in it, that'd be a good thing to do, to look in the dictionary to see exactly how it's defined. And it's realistic, really, because I think that I'm so many things, but when I look in the scheme of things, I'm small in this massive, you look up at night, gives us some indication of, I'm spinning on a rock somewhere in space.
So insignificant.
Yes. And yet I can lay the law down and criticize other people and tell him what, and I think that I'm quite something because, I did this and I did that. So, and all those things are impediments. Because they're all coming from this ahankara, this false identification of what we think we are, which actually we're not. We thought aham brahmasmi is what the first Vedanta Sutra, aham brahmasmi, actually what I am is not male, female, black, white, young, old. These are all temporary and they're coming and going, coming and going, coming and going, like solar systems are coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. What I am is a spark of consciousness, or you can call it a soul, atma, some spark of that conscious world which has its own existence and its whole unconditioned. What? Unconditioned what? The sadhus say, unconditioned beauty and movement and colour and dance and sweetness and ecstasy. So that deeply rooted ahankara is to be, pulled up, and it's not an easy thing, and it doesn't want to die. We're attached to our chains, basically, of thinking in this way. There's so many, stories, or what do they call them, like parables. The guy who lives in the cave and somebody wants to show him the sun. He's never seen the sun before. He says, come on, I'll show you the sun. Well, okay, I better light a candle so we can see the sun when we go out. It's like you can't conceive of that which is, this word that comes again and again, adokshaja, transcendental. It's like another dimension. We can't conceive of another colour. We can't. We've got a spectrum of light that we're accustomed to, so I cannot think of another colour. But am I going to be so proud to say, therefore they don't exist? There can't possibly be in this vast, existence, some other place where light is different and colour is different and everything is different?
We can't, because if you see even in mathematics, when I used to study mathematics, there was this concept of infinite.
Uh-huh.
So infinite is either infinitely small or infinitely big.
Right.
But when we start thinking of big, we always crash to something. Okay, big.
Right.
But what will be after this big?
Right.
Because the mind is not able. The mind is always thinking in terms of something that we can touch, a noun which you can touch, feel, see. Because that is what our senses are dominating. So when they say it's infinitely big, the infinite word we have used since class 6th.
Right.
But it's still in the mind. We can't imagine what is infinitely big, because for us, everything that is a start has to end. So we are trying to figure out, so if somebody says ki Bhagwan is like infinite, this thing, the mind is not able to catch that concept of infinite. What is that infinite? Like space. Okay, I'm going in space in the world, and then space will finish. But what will be after that finishing?
Right.
So the infinite thing we are not able to imagine. It's very difficult for a human being to imagine infinite, because we are reading from class 6 in mathematics, physics, infinite small, infinite big.
Yeah.
But difficult, because the material, because we are not able to, the senses and the thing are different. Senses want to see something, feel something, begin and end. Mathematics is, it's infinitely big or infinitely small. Okay, how small? There must be something inside that. More small, more small, more small. So that's the thing, right? We are not able to do that.
Right.
Our brain tricks us.
Right, and that's all laid out in Vedanta and other places, that these things which are unapproachable by mental gymnastics exist outside of that, a separate reality, you can say.
Exactly.
And not only separate, but the source, where everything is coming from, where everything comes again. Is it like a dead system that just happened? You have to, ultimately, the heart is going to draw us in a direction of some conception. And there's a marketplace of them. Take your choice, you're free to conceive of this reality how you like. What draws the devotees is this understanding that those things that exist in the conscious world, and only in the conscious world, like beauty and sweetness and love, that's its nature. That is the from those things Those are the substantial things. And this other stuff is it's the opposite of what we teach. That this stuff is real. Concrete is real. You know where you are with concrete. Love, affection, beauty, I don't know. Don't even know whether it exists. Maybe, and the sadhus say it's upside down. This stuff has got no... it's real for a second, and then it's gone. The time lapse. Planets coming out. Planets disappearing, planets coming out again, stars being born, stars dying. That's its nature. But what is doing the conceiving of it all? What is this thing that's making it, brings it alive and makes it dance, Guru Maharaj says. That is the field of our inquiry. And that's where all these wonderful things like a good joke exist. There's no, you can't prove it. The joke's funny. I think my jokes are hilarious and nobody's laughing because there's no empirical judge of that. It's purely in the conscious world. And it's those things that give us life. They're what we like in life, those things. They're the most meaningful things to us that only exist in that plane of consciousness. Hare Krishna. So we were talking about humility anyway. So anyway, we're chanting Tranada Pisa Nichena Tharori Vasahishnuna, this beautiful prayer of Mahaprabhu that to cultivate that, as possible by me. I'm always reliant on help. That much I know. My own tendency is to wallow really in my own conditioned state, but through higher association and through some to try and give myself to that higher association, then some of those qualities may come to me also.
Sorry, I know that the gentleman there asked the question, what exactly is humility? And it is something that in maternal television or the radio, it's bandied about very loosely. Everyone sort of seems to think this is a desirable quality, humility, but no one really knows. They seem to have picked up, society seems to have picked up this word humility. And he's such a humble guy, he's such a, and it's obviously a desirable thing to do, but no one really. So I think it's very relevant that he's asking, what is it? Because it's being used out there very loosely, very slackly, very, without much thought. Sorry?
You hear people talk about humility.
Oh, all the time. But no one actually is saying, what is humility? And I'm not so sure we've got an answer here about what humility is. I would like to know too.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, it's a term out there which is being used a lot, and yeah, but I think
the example they give in the Vedas or in the scriptures is that they have to be humbler than a blade of grass, a tree, stored in the road and stuff like this. But what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
What does it mean?
Going into what humility actually is, if it's so aspirational, if it's so integral to the life that you're describing, the spiritual life that you have.
Yeah, it's important, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Why are we maybe need to arrive at a definition of sort of
Humbleness, won't it? Yeah, it's like thinking yourself lower than someone else, or thinking, is that right? Thinking, so if you're like approaching your guru, you have to be humble because they're so much more elevated or intelligent or whatever, so you're like lower than them and you approach them in humility, is that right?
Hare Krishna Jai Gurudev. Well, I mean, the whole environment, I find myself, I've heard this, and I subscribe to this, that the Guru Maharaj saying that the environment is my friend. It takes some faith. Is love and affection the cause of everything? Is that the direction of I want to go? And that everything comes to me is to help me in my journey, in my practice, and everything is to help me to see with that vision. So, whatever it may be, whether it's what I would consider a difficult circumstance or an easy circumstance, whether it's a so-called friend or a so-called enemy, whether it's this, that, or the other, this is my prasadam. This is where I find myself. This is what has come to me. And we hear there's no anarchy in the sweet absolute. This is the food that has been put on my plate.
Yeah.
Humility is not, well, he shouldn't have freaking said that, and I don't like that, and this, that, the other, this, me, ching, ching, chuck, that. That we have to come away from. Doesn't mean we don't discriminate, but it's not saying it's learning the right way to see everything. This was an instruction by Lord Brahma, a prayer of Lord Brahma when he'd been like slipped into that kind of attitude of thinking that, oh well, I know how things should be, and I just need to arrange them, and then everything will be wonderful. And he, in his tears, is praying, when I can see that everything that comes to me has first passed under the affectionate, sweet, caring, nurturing eye of my Lord, then very quickly I'm entering into a spiritual reality, because everything is alive and coming to me affectionately to raise me up. And what will prevent us doing that is the same thing. It's the same ahankara. It's the same self-assertion that I know better. And that's why we see sometimes in different traditions, these great saintly personalities, even when death is in their face, they're not even touched by that. It's of like, so be it. I'm going to be dead anyway. They're so absorbed in that conscious world, in that loving, affectionate, conscious world, that those things, these things that are going to happen anyway, they're of little concern. We see that throughout the world, those kind of personalities. Even in what we would say, oh, this is a terrible circumstance, this shouldn't be happening. Well, it is happening. How do I read that? How do I digest it? How does my consciousness process it? And Krishna consciousness is always looking for that, for the divine play ultimately. For the Guru Maharaj used to say we have to learn to dive deep into reality. Not just take the surface events and then react to them. And like people like, Newton or Einstein, and people were telling them, oh, you're so brainy, you're so, you're so amazing, you know everything. And they, because of their proximity to greatness and their understanding it, they were able to say, no, I'm just collecting stones on the ocean of knowledge. They could, because they got a little glimpse of just what is that, the awesomeness of that world, whether it's the natural world or anything else, the mathematical world. Someone who's actually a little understanding of it is naturally feeling small, not feeling, oh, I'm going to go and assert myself of how great I am. And so that's the natural thing, Guru Maharaj in his 90s, his whole life absorbed in these kind of ideas was, quite genuine to say, I'm just a student, I'm learning off everybody all the time. Everybody who comes, I'm learning. I'm not like the big person who knows everything. It's dynamic and eternal. It's going on. It's like, so when and genuinely, and when you see that in someone, it's very, very beautiful and very heartwarming and encouraging, and it shines that kind of natural humility, the natural kind of non-self-assertion. I don't know whether that's the dictionary definition.
It just been from a lifetime of many years of experience and exploration in the areas that you're discussing here, that you're talking about. I don't come from that world. So
Right.
to me, I want to answer this gentleman's question and say, or just not answer it, I'm not in a position to answer it, but just to address him and say, I think to look at it from higher and lower beings, I think it's not helpful to me. I think surely we're not talking about hierarchies of higher and lower beings here.
Right.
I mean, surely is humility not what you used the word yourself?
Right.
Yes, that's the word.
Right.
Attitude. Is it not an attitude, an approach, a way of thinking, a way of being, something that's, is it to do with the heart? And to me, that's more what I understand. You're very poetic in your discussions and in the words you use. I don't come from that world, so I can't access that. At this moment in time, I cannot access what you're describing.
Right.
But this gentleman is saying, what is humility?
Right.
To me, it's, if you're, to answer his question, which I wish you said, is it a lower being approaching a higher being?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a helpful description at all.
No, it's not the fact that you're approaching a higher being, it's the fact that you appreciate that they're more intelligent or...
I don't think even that comes into it. Not more intelligent, not more knowledgeable. Is it humility that you're approaching someone with a certain approach and openness or whatever? As you say, infinite possibilities. To me, that describes an intuitive person. Intuition is what Jung said. This describes an intuitive person. But I don't want to go into Jung and everything else. But I just... Did you feel it was answered? Do you have a better understanding of what?
No, not really, no.
No, neither do I.
Okay.
And I think
I'm sorry.
No, you're
Right.
couching it in such
Right.
beautiful, romantic, idealistic language.
Right.
Is very much part of your world.
Uh-huh.
I'm not part of your world yet.
Right.
I don't know if I will be. But I cannot access your language.
Yeah, I could, what can I say?
So I'm
I can only...
in simpler terms.
Right.
What is humility? I
Right.
genuinely would like to know because
Right.
it's a word that's used out there all the time.
Well, I'm going to go with non-self-assertion, and that's my self-assertion. That was my sort of final, after thinking about it and processing it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I don't want to keep everybody here by answering questions.
But as far as hierarchy goes, then, it's not like everybody and everything is the same. Guru Maharaj would say no two atoms are the same. No two internet connections are the same. No two bottles of wine are the same. No two people are the same. There's infinite variety in everything. So to say everything is just the same, every person is just the same, we don't accept that.
That is denying the reality.
Now,
people are different.
we might not like the language of higher and lower. Okay, let's just put that to one side then. But different, for sure.
Yes.
And does that mean somebody may be different in a way that I can learn something from them? Then that's good. That's that kind of difference, we can say, rather than...
Hierarchies of
Yes.
higher and lower, we want... It's
Yeah.
not helpful to... Anyway, thank you for that.
Jai. Jai Gurudev. Jai all the devotees and everyone. And now we're going to do Arti, I think. Is Arti... Who's Pujari behind there? Hare Krishna.
Anita, are you in the go? Please.
You okay?
Yeah.
Since you've been running around. Which is now I feel it standing up actually. I didn't feel it sitting down. Now I've stood up, I can feel it standing in the heat. Alright,
How long are you staying? How long are you staying?
Monday I'm supposed to be flying.
So soon.
Huh?
So soon.
We'll see if I get there in a moment.
Where are you trying to get?
I'm going to New Delhi,
Oh,
but I mean, they don't have to make it difficult to go anywhere nowadays. So we'll see. Oh no, G, no, G, please, you
thank you. I think I really get.
How much for this reactor?
Hello.
By the reactor.
What about the video, Dad?
Coming up.
Ew. So cute. What is this? What is this? What is
With the jacket. Yeah.
Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Bhagavati Prabhu
Jai